Welcome into the Broncos Breakdown. I'm your host, Matthew Peterson. We got a mailbag show coming up here. It's the holiday season, though, so I want to give back to you guys. We'll get some shout-outs on the show. I'm going to answer some of your questions. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you have not already. But like I said, let's give some love back to the viewers. I love doing the show. I appreciate all of you guys that comment, like the video, those of you that subscribed. And if you're new to the channel and if this is your first time watching, then come join the channel. Hit that big red button, subscribe, comment away, get your questions down below. Like I said, it's the only way to get on the mailbag shows, and that way I can give you a shout out on future shows. We'll kick off the show by posing this question. Shout out your city, right? It's a kind of a two-way conversation here at Chat Sports, and so love to see where my viewers are at. I know a bunch of you guys, of course, in Colorado, but if you're not in Colorado, if you're out in California in a different state, or maybe even international, let me know where you guys are watching from. We did this question before a couple weeks ago, but we've got some new subscribers since then, so let's get everyone back up to speed. First question, though, coming in from JT. Do you see the Broncos being aggressive in free agency or more aggressive with a blockbuster quarterback trade or both? JT, good question because the Broncos have to do something. Staying still is moving backwards in the NFL, and they have to make improvements because this roster has tons of talent in some places, but needs to be improved elsewhere. First, let me answer the top question about free agency. The Broncos have nearly $50 million in cap space for next year as it stands right now. Now, maybe they unload, kind of release some of the older guys or try to make some cuts to get some extra room. I don't think they really need to. They got plenty of room. It's 11th overall in the NFL as of right now. Plus, the cap is going up a huge chunk. I think nearly $40 million, right? From 180 to 220. So Denver's got plenty of money. They got big pockets too. So they should be spending money in free agency. But to answer the second part of your question, are they going to make any blockbuster trades? Well, here are 5 trade targets if you wanted to make a trade for a quarterback. The 2 biggest names, Aaron Rodgers or Russell Wilson. 2 guys I would send the house to. I've done trade videos about them before. Check them out on the channel. But I would send multiple firsts. I'd send a starter or 2, some seconds, some thirds. Remember, Denver's got 5 picks in the top 100 of the upcoming NFL draft. So if you're not going to pick immediate impact players with those picks, then trade them off. The other names right there quickly, Matt Ryan. I don't really know if he's got much left in the tank. Maybe a change of scenery could help the former MVP. Jimmy Garoppolo is playing kind of well right now, actually. Pretty well, I would say, after kind of a sluggish start. But the 49ers just used the 3rd overall pick to get Trey Lance. I don't see them sitting Trey Lance for a second straight year, especially with how much of a contract Garoppolo has. And then finally, Baker Mayfield and the Browns. They don't really know in Cleveland what the exact future looks like at the quarterback position. If the GM there, Andrew Berry, wants to shake things up, then maybe he does make a trade and move Mayfield out. And maybe the Broncos go, hey, we don't like the upcoming draft targets, so we'll take a better Teddy Bridgewater. I think that's what Bridgewater was this year, right? A rent-a-quarterback, have him for a year, and move on next year. But if they can't land Rodgers or Wilson, maybe they take one of those other 3 guys to hold over until they can draft another quarterback. Free agency-wise, though, close your eyes. It's not a pretty sight. Andy Dalton, Nick Foles, Mitch Trubisky, and Tyler Huntley. Huntley, we're going to talk about later. We got a question on him, so I'm going to pause on Huntley. Make sure you stay tuned for that later on. But those 3, all 3 former Chicago Bears, and all 3 the best options out there. You can go with Big Ben Roethlisberger, who I think is going to retire. Cam Newton, I don't want to run that anymore. You've seen how it's worked in Carolina. It's not worked well. So free agency-wise, you're not going to make a huge splash signing out there. But let me know, who do you want the Broncos quarterback to be in 2022, next season? Curious what your thoughts are. A name I did not include was Deshaun Watson. Maybe I should have included him, but it doesn't look like there's much interest between the 2 sides, and also he's got, I think, some legal issues going on, maybe like 22 pending allegations. So hard to envision Watson suiting up anytime soon as long as those are out there. Next question up on today's show comes from Michael Pack. Shout out to you, Michael. I know you are a big commenter. Appreciate you always being a part of the show. How does everybody feel about the Manning family owning the Broncos? To me, this is the absolute best thing that could happen to this team. I wonder if Elway will be an investor in all of this. Great question, and I just want to jump right into it. I am drowning in the idea of Peyton Manning being a part owner, some sort of level of ownership. Listen, if you're going to own a team, it's going to be difficult, and it won't be simple to put the money together unless you're like Jeff Bezos. But I'm all about the Broncos getting Manning somehow involved. I actually did a video on this just yesterday. I'll have that video in the comments and the description so you can check it out. But it was all about the idea of Peyton Manning being the next owner of the Broncos. Before we get to the other questions on today's show, I just want to shout out to some other recent subscribers. Scott R., Joey Collin, John Soper, Jeremiah Fisher, and Marquez Harding. Appreciate all of you guys subscribing to the channel. It's a growing channel. Would love to have anyone that hasn't seen our show before. It's a little new. Hit that big red and subscribe. That's the best way you're going to get on a future Broncos breakdown. But shout out to all of you guys who have already subscribed. One of the best fast-growing Broncos YouTube channels out there. And it's all thanks to you guys. Next question on today's show comes from Aiden Owens. What do you think about signing the Ravens' backup quarterback after an impressive performance against the Packers? Yeah, that's why I held off on talking about Tyler Huntley earlier on, because he's kind of the biggest name in quarterback talk right now of the possibility of him suiting up for another team. We'll dive into that in just a second in more length. But we got awesome deals going on at BetUS. That's our sportsbook partner. The NFL season's wrapping up, but you can bet on anything over at BetUS all year long. So if you love putting some cheddar down on the Avalanche, on the Nuggets, whatever your team is, do it at BetUS. The Colorado Rapids, my producer's in my ear right now. He's an MLS guy. I am not. But you can put some money on them. Chatsports.com/bet. Promo code Broncos125. Put in $100, for example. You get a 125% deposit bonus. In English, $225 to play with. And you can bet, say, on the upcoming Week 16 matchup. Broncos right now, 1-point dogs against the Raiders on the road. It's a low over-under. What does that mean? That means Vegas has no faith in Drew Lock and or Derek Carr putting up points. Maybe Lock comes out and balls out because you know Drew Lock is going to throw bombs all day. You just don't know if it's going to hit the turf or it's going to hit someone's hands. But you can do all that betting right now at BetUS. Next one, going back to the Tyler Huntley question. It's too early to say right now. We've seen one prolific game from Huntley. And I say prolific because when you're a backup quarterback and you come in and you do what he's done, which is 4 touchdowns, and we'll have his stats up in a moment. Yeah, you'd absolutely want to get him because this is someone whose name is trending upwards. But it's also a little complicated because the deal with Tyler Huntley is he's a free agent at the end of this year, but he's a restricted free agent. So what that means is the Ravens will have the first chance to give him a contract, and if the Broncos say, hey, we want to give you $15 million for 3 years, the Ravens will have an opportunity to match that. So it's difficult to say right now, but look at the numbers he had against the Packers when he made his second start of the season just a week ago. 2 touchdowns through the air, and he was just like Lamar Jackson on the ground. He churned out 2 scores as well, 13 carries, 73 yards. So Tyler Huntley on the ground just as good as Lamar Jackson, it looked like, but it's a very small sample size. And you don't want to get caught up too much because I can think of a couple quarterbacks that had great kind of flashes and didn't turn out like you would have thought. Remember Matt Flynn for the Packers? Came in like week 17, week 17 when the Packers sacked Aaron Rodgers. Looked great, threw for like 500 yards, got the bag in Seattle, and then the Seahawks went with a guy named Russell Wilson. All right, next question comes in from All Out Broncos 1858. It's our final question. If Teddy is able to play, should we roll with him or give Lock the start for the rest of the season? It's a very difficult question for an overweight YouTuber like me to answer, but I'll say this. If I'm Teddy, I shut it down. You had a scary knee injury at the start of your season. You had your second, kind of almost third head injury of this season. What are you gaining in the last couple of weeks for your career? I get that you're a competitor. You want to go out and play for your teammates, and that's why you're able to stick around in the NFL so much, because if you weren't, you wouldn't have had this long of a career, and the average NFL career is like 3 years long. But at the end of the day, you only have your health, and you can't lose that. So if I'm Teddy, I shut it down, roll with Lock, and just get ready for next season, and someone's going to sign you. If they're not going to get you a starting quarterback gig, they'll make you a backup because you're absolutely worth that. But let me ask the question to you. Should Teddy play again this season? Let me know a Y for yes or N for no. We'll see you later here on the Broncos Breakdown. If you ever want to get on another mailbag, you just got to do two things. You just got to comment, and you just got to subscribe. That way you know when I put the call out to get your questions. Hope all you guys have a wonderful Christmas, and we'll see you later here on the channel.